This is how I am setting up my clear smoke paint test. I have some clear styrene here. I marked off each section with the different paint, and that way we can compare them side by side. Okay, so I'll probably paint nice 3 thin coats on each. That way we can gauge the type of color each paint has, and then from that, hopefully from there, we can pick which one we like for what application, knowing that you can go a little darker, maybe a little lighter, but most likely a little darker for each. You can kind of tell, and then we can find out which is best for tinting car model windows. We're going to go to the paint booth now. So for this first paint, the Ammo by MIG Crystal Smoke, I used a Vallejo airbrush thinner. Added a little bit in there to thin it. I put on pretty thin layers here. You can barely see the paint from this angle. Here's the second coat after I sprayed some. I made sure it was a little dry. I used the airbrush a little to dry it. This is before I used different angles for each coat. You're starting to see the color come through here. I sped it up so you don't have to see too much airbrushing and hear too much of my spray booth. Here's the AK Real Colors Clear Smoke. For the AK paint, I use Mr. Color Thinner. Not the leveling thinner. I wanted to keep everything pretty even with testing all the paints. I don't want to introduce any leveling thinners. Second coat here. This AK paint went on very smoothly. Very smoothly, very thin. Good color, good tint. You can see there. You can also see it on the paper there. Here's the Alclad. Alclad, no thinner needed. It's already pre-thinned in the bottle. I've used this a few times before. I tested it in my first smoke paint test. I've also used other Alclad metal paints in my other previous tests for car rims. Second coat, here's a third coat. Good coverage. I like how I don't have to thin it because it's pre-thinned. Here you can see the color against the white backdrop. Mr. Color, one of my favorite paint brands. It's a lacquer. I used, of course, Mr. Color Thinner. Mr. Color Thinner or Mr. Thinner? Mr. Color Thinner. There it goes, first thin coat. Here's the second. I try to do all of these, except for maybe the first one, in going different directions to get a better coverage. Third coat here, all quick speed. Very nice tint there, huh? Here's the Tamiya X19 Smoke. I used Tamiya Acrylic Thinner since this is a acrylic paint. Second coat here. And then third. Went on pretty thin. I almost couldn't see the smoke in it. Maybe it's from my thinning, so that's why I put on a 4th coat on this one. Just so we can see the color. Here's the Vallejo model color smoke. For some reason, I did not record the 1st coat. Sorry about that. This one of all the smoke paints had the most tint in it, the most color in it. Maybe partially because I was putting on heavier, you know, I'm still working on my airbrushing skills. But at least this will give you an idea of the color of this smoke. Hi everyone, and welcome back. Okay, so I think this is the best way that I can represent the results in this test. I tried different angles, but I think this one shows the tints, the hues of each color the best. So first off is the MIG Crystal Smoke right here. So you can see this has a reddish smoke tint. There's a reddish tint to this smoke. Okay, a reddish, I wouldn't say purple, but a hint of magenta in it. Okay, here is the AK smoke. Okay, and this has a tint of gray. Okay, more gray than blue or red. And this one was actually the standout star. This one sprayed so smoothly. I used Mr. Color Thinner. Very smooth, very easy to use. It went on very thin. I will have to try more AK paints in the future. Tell me what you think of AK if you've tried AK before. Next one is Alclad II Transparent Smoke. I've tested this one before in a previous video. Here is another test side by side. And not sure if you could tell on video, but this has a blue tint to it. Okay? So a little blue in the smoke. Always easy to use the Alclad. Don't need a mix or anything. Mr. Color, Smoke Gray. Alright, so this Smoke Gray has a, not sure you can tell on there, has a beige tint to it. Okay, so this smoke might be good for maybe military models, these 3 back here. So it has a beige tint to it, if you don't mind a little beige in it. X19 Tamiya smoke. This is very thin. I actually had to put on, I think, 4 coats. At least 4 coats. And it's still very thin. And this has a brownish tint too. A little lighter than the Mr. Color. But still in the brown family there. So Vallejo model color, the last one, smoke. This one, maybe because I didn't thin it correctly, this one went on the thickest. I think I did maybe 3 coats, but this has the most color. This has a orange tint to it. So I think these 3 are good for military models. And I think for tinting car windows, I would go with the AK smoke, clear smoke. Okay? I don't mind the gray smoke tint. That's the nice tint. Okay? I don't like the tints where they discolor and they turn blue, purple, you know, blue or maybe purplish, which is this magenta-ish one right here. So for tinting car windows, so you don't have to buy all of these and test these for yourself, waste time and money, I would try the AK Clear Smoke for tinting car windows. If you want something a little more red, MIG. A little more blue, Alclad. If you're doing military models and you're doing soot, smoke, you know, anything dirty like that, like dirt, then try the Mr. Color Smoke Gray. Try the Tamiya X19 Acrylic Smoke. Try the Vallejo Model Color Smoke. This one has a lot of orange in it. So take a look. Let me know what you think. If this is useful to you, let me know. Maybe I can do more of these. I'm thinking in my next video, I will be testing gunmetal paints. There are a lot of gunmetal paints. And there are a lot of different definitions of gunmetal. Gray, you know, metallic black, gunmetal gray, gunmetal blue, okay? So there's a lot of those, so that one might take a while. But I'll see what I can procure for those paints, and I'll let you know. So here, let's take a closer look. Okay, is that clear? A little magenta for the MIG. Gray for the AK. Little bit kind of like a blue or violet hue to the Alclad. Mr. Color, beige, almost like a beige. Tamiya X19, it's very hard to tell on here. I had over 4 coats on there actually. But that is going to be a more brown tint too, just like Mr. Color. Okay? And then Vallejo here, just straight orange tint to it. Okay, thanks for watching everyone. Oops. Thanks for watching everyone. I'll see you in the next one.